Hey everyone, it's Jake Clark, John Schneider, and Eric Faldy today on podcast number 21 of the Fargo 3D Printing Show. Today we're going to talk about some local stuff from NDSU. So North Dakota State University had an innovation challenge. We'll get into that. And then what else do we got on there?
Talking about OctoPrint.
OctoPrint.
And then
Smart Extruder Fix. So let's start out with Emerging Prairie.
Yeah, so
innovate.
Jake, you had a chance to go to this.
Yes.
So every year NDSU has they have an innovation challenge, and this year when you went to it, you saw that one of the teams is using 3D printing for something not just like cool, but something that's actually practical too.
Well, I mean, so the innovation challenge, it's kind of like a mini, not startup weekend, but is that what they call it?
Yeah, startup weekend.
Startup weekend. So if you guys are familiar with startup weekend, it's like a mini startup weekend.
Oh, I don't even know if it's a mini. It's probably bigger than a startup weekend because you're making actual stuff. Like there's more that goes into it than just 3 days worth of effort.
Yeah,
it's like
so think of
inventor entrepreneur event, right? Something like that.
It's an education startup weekend kind of that lasts
sort of
kind of like a semester.
And I think it's more hardware based or like focusing on physical things that you make. Where startup weekend, a lot of it a startup weekend tends to be more software and app oriented. Yeah, because you can throw something together in 3 days for that. Hardware is something more difficult to do in just 3 days.
Well, 3D printing, you can do it just like that.
Well, yeah.
That's how it works.
Yeah, just like that. Yeah, just snap your fingers and it's made. So anyway, yeah.
So innovation challenge. I was able to go there. They had kind of an open
showcase.
Yes, thank you.
Yep.
It's a Monday.
That's what I do.
So it was an open showcase of a couple different things, and there's probably about maybe 20 to 30 teams there. And there was one that I got introduced to right away. That it was two girls that designed this. Two I think they're sophomores and juniors, but I'm not sure. What they designed was a coat hanger system that had these little tiny pieces that you'd snap together, and you could hang up your clothes, you could hang up your pants, you could actually hang, John, you could hang up your high heels.
I could
on that. So they had like little holes. It was like not pentagons.
Hexagons.
Yeah.
They had hexagons, and then you could set things in there. It was really neat.
It's a modular system. So it's like a honeycomb. Yeah. So you can have different things connect together and have it all
kind of like
Connects.
Connects, or was it Connects though? The ones where you have the little rods.
Yeah, the rods like the white little snowflake.
It was a similar idea where they interconnect and you can make them as big as you want, and it looked a little weird, I think, just because the colors are so flat. But I mean,
well, I like the colors. I thought that was the most colorful thing there.
Functionally, it was very sound.
Yeah, I mean, it was a great idea. I mean, that's who I voted for.
They won, didn't they?
I don't know if they won personally.
They're going on to some other event.
Well, because it's not done. The innovation challenge isn't done. Like there's still stuff going on. Yeah, so it's like a work in progress. I think.
Yeah, end of February is when they actually go and the judges do their final. This is who won. I think they're in the semifinals, but this was kind of like people could show up for a couple hours and say, "Oh, who's your personal choice or your favorite out of all of them?" And there was probably I know I stopped at two other ones that were using 3D printing, so I think there's a total of about 4 or 5 that actually used 3D printing. Out of the 3, I think this was the coolest one and the most innovative one, and kind of the left field idea. And it's just really neat. I got to talk to the designers. It was really cool to see, because in STEM and a lot in science and math, they're pushing a lot of girls to be in the engineering and design field. And it was really interesting to see that this all girl team came up with this idea and did something with it. I thought that was really cool. And I think they're both architecture students. So Ben Bernard, who's been on the show a couple times. It's one of his
students. So it's, we're starting to see this more, that as students become more aware of what 3D printing can do and the fact that they have access to 3D printers, they're starting to come up with more ideas. I was just talking to my friend Zach. He was in here a little bit earlier, and like the NDSU engineering department, he said he's actually looking at buying So Zach is personally looking at getting a 3D printer because he's starting to have trouble getting access to printers in the mechanical engineering department, because before, they had that many machines, but no one really knew about them. Well, now that people know about them and they want to use them, now you can't just go and print whatever you want. There's a queue. Like you've got to get in line. You've got to get in line to start, to be able to print something. Yeah. So that's where you're going to start seeing. I think you're going to start seeing more schools adding 3D printers.
It's early in the semester yet too.
They haven't even started hitting their
February 2nd. I mean, just think of early May. They're going to be
burning the midnight oil.
I guess
those
late April, early May. I forget when school ends anymore. I guess
it's like mid-May.
Mid-May.
So April they're going to be busy with their projects. Because usually it's like first week in May is dead week, second week in May is finals week, and then it's done.
Yeah.
Sort of.
I would always make sure that I could do what I needed to in my room, so I could stay away from the computer lab. But I was all computer based, and I had what I needed, so I couldn't. I didn't need to 3D print.
Yeah. Well, now you do.
Now you do.
Hey, it's cool. I get to. I did study 3D modeling and animation. So
we'll have to put a picture up.
Yeah.
I think it's later this week. You designed a rose for Beauty and the Beast. I want to jump back to one thing at the NDSU library before I get to that tangent. But in the NDSU library, if you went to the NDSU library, your friend Zach, they're booked. They got their 4 machines packed, it sounds like, because second semester is thesis projects for a lot of architecture students and mechanical engineering students. I know our ME or IME intern is doing something with 3D printing.
He's doing a prosthetic hand.
Yes, and there's 5 people in that group. So I mean, if you take 5 people and they want to 3D print a prosthetic hand, all of a sudden 4 machines are taken up because of just one project. Yep. But yeah, so Beauty and the Beast, I'm going to jump over that quick, is a play that's going to be showing here at West Fargo
West Fargo and Cheyenne are teaming
High School.
And yeah, it's going to be at West Fargo High School.
Yeah, and
that's my alma mater. I don't know what you call it for high school. That's where I went.
We'll just say alum.
Yeah, sure.
Well, okay, so Jake, so what does that have to do with 3D printing?
So, what we have been asked is that we would 3D print a rose from Beauty and the Beast. And we had Eric design it, and we're going to 3D print it here probably tonight, tomorrow, sometime this week. Because I think it's due this week.
I think so. Yeah. I stayed up kind of late on a few projects. So I'm a little drowsy today, but I used 3D Studio Max, older version. It's a student version I had in college. It's from 2011. Even in college, I didn't want to upgrade because I liked the chaos.
Well, you know where everything's at. It's like if you have a messy desk,
it's a chaos generator, like a interaction, particle thing. Like I can't remember what it's called, but I liked that a lot, and I use it for my final project in 2012. So I knew that one, and the next one didn't work properly, or I didn't want to try to configure it, so I used an old version. And that's where I know, I've used Maya a little bit, but I like 3D Studio Max for polygon modeling. I've touched on CAD before, but it's not my.
I did an Inventor, and I didn't do a very good job.
I don't know. It's tricky, but
I mean, what we're doing it for is just for a piece that they can have sitting out there. That because the students actually
in the case, and the petals are falling off, and we're trying to make it look good. I'm doing my best, and also make it 3D printable. I'm a little rusty on. I haven't touched 3D in a couple years, like in a big way. So.
Well, I mean, Cheyenne has their own a couple 3D printers.
What do they have?
West Fargo. I think they have a 5th gen, a couple Rep 2s, or they have a couple 5th gens and a Rep 2. I know throughout the West Fargo school district they have a handful of machines.
Yeah, West Fargo has something. I can't remember off the top of my head though.
Yeah, but
it might have been a Cube Pro or something.
Are you in love with your new phone or what?
Yeah.
So last week we talked about. John had a large green.
I don't know where it's at.
Oh, it's back in my desk. You want to go run grab it quick? Quick like a bunny.
Large green.
Well, okay, you don't need to.
Gallop.
It's a big bunny, I guess.
What would you call that? Like a place. Holder?
It's like a dummy phone.
Yeah, dummy
I guess.
phone.
And it's kind of silly because there's a Kickstarter campaign not too long ago for something called the No Phone.
People got mad about it.
Where it was basically a 3D printed phone. It was just a 3D printed shell. Like
it was kind of just joking about how useless phones are in the big scheme.
So I mean, I did this so I could get used to how big the phone was going to be. So this is a Note 4. I ended up getting a Note Edge, but they're pretty much the same phone. So I mean, it got me accustomed to how it was going to fit in my pocket, and yeah, I mean it's fine. I'm still waiting on a case for it, but Yeah, well, I mean,
I heard you get better cell reception on that one.
Yeah, I know. It's a
Is it
nice
bad?
little brick phone. No, the phone's good.
Okay, I don't know.
Although that does bring us to another point. I was checking something because someone posted something on the Smart Extruder Fix video that we just put up.
Yes.
Yeah, so we've been working with the 5th gen line of MakerBot 3D printers for a while.
Since last summer.
So we're talking the MakerBot
2
5th gen, the Replicator Mini, and the Replicator Z18, and not so much in the current version of the Smart Extruder, but other versions of the Smart Extruder, like when they first came out, they have a clogging issue, and it's not entirely gone away, but it's getting better.
Yeah,
I mean,
with
firmware,
for the new ones.
And I mean, with firmware, the new firmware's improved stuff a bit.
Yeah.
But when you have a Smart Extruder that clogs up, yeah, you can request a replacement one from MakerBot, and you could send your old one in, but it also works you can unclog it yourself. Mm-hmm. I mean, this isn't going to solve 100% of the clog issues,
No.
but it solves a decent amount.
Yeah, I mean, you can get about 80% of the clogs fixed, and we still recommend that you have an extra one or two Smart Extruders on hand in case you can't get it out, or while you're trying to get this one out, you can throw your other one in there.
Right.
So we still recommend that you have a couple extra, but like I said, it'll fix about 80% of your clogs. Of the last 20%, you can actually stick a little not toothpick, dental pick inside, and you can actually push it the reverse way. Once you look at the video, it'll make more sense of what I'm actually talking about. Mm-hmm. But you can push the dental tool back up, and you can actually get more of the filament out if you can't do it the traditional way I show. It'll make more sense once you go and watch
the video.
Watch it after this.
We'll have it in
it'll
the.
Make more sense.
I'm really bad about putting up the annotations, but I'll try to make sure. Like I put the thing there, and I just don't put like the. And I forget for like a month, and then I just do them all. So.
Way to go, Eric.
Look for that.
Move, excellent.
Annotations. You guys wouldn't have known if I wouldn't have said anything.
No,
But
I don't check that stuff closely.
That stuff is. Yeah, it's there. But that was picked up by which website?
3dprint.com today, on Monday.
They said some really nice stuff.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah, we always end up running into those guys at the different trade shows, and they mention that they run into us that often at the trade shows. So
we didn't get to go to the Burbank one, though, unfortunately. No. We were just burnt out from all the other trade shows that we went to this past fall. But
so I mean that's the Smart Extruder Fix. I think the other thing we're going to talk about was OctoPrint.
Yeah, that's all.
So this is something that I've been playing around with a little bit. For about the last year I've had the intention of playing with it, but I've never gotten around to doing it. So what OctoPrint does, it turns a Raspberry Pi into a 3D printer server. So what that allows you to do, you take a Raspberry Pi, so it's like a $35 little computer, and then you have a powered USB hub. And you plug your printer into the powered USB hub. USB hub goes into the Raspberry Pi. Also throw a Wi-Fi adapter in there. And then from anywhere on your network, or if you configure it properly anywhere in the world, you can actually upload a G-code file to the Raspberry Pi, and you can send it to your printer and control your printer. So you can start a print from anywhere in the world, conceivably, if you wanted. And if you have a webcam hooked up to the Raspberry Pi, you can be monitoring your print too. So you can have it set up to do a time lapse, or it takes a shot every however many seconds, but you can also have it so it streams that image to you. So if you're printing something, let's say you're going to start on a 30-hour print, and you want to know, okay, well, I'm going to go home for the weekend, but I want to be able to check in and on it every once in a while. Don't want to go into the shop, or don't want to go into school or work or whatever. You can just check on it, and if it's starting to fail, you can just say cancel the print, turn the printer off, have everything cool down. That way you don't need to worry about it. Don't need to worry about it overheating. Don't need to worry about
material.
Right.
And what machines does that work for again?
Most of them.
Okay. I'm not familiar.
No, so I mean it pretty much anything that uses anything that uses Marlin for a firmware. I don't know if it works with the MakerBot machines or not.
We're going to be beta testing something.
Yeah. So there's another thing that we're looking at playing around with that handle. It's like for remote controlling your printer or just managing multiple machines. Because that's the one thing. I think for Raspberry Pi, you can have multiple machines hooked up to the Raspberry Pi, and then depending on which port. So I don't know how many you could have hooked up to one Raspberry Pi, because you could probably control quite a few. But another one that we're looking at is 3D Printer OS.
Yes.
So they just invited us into the beta for that, so we're going to be playing around with that. I think that's another one where you can manage multiple machines from one interface.
Yeah.
Which, okay, I mean, like we have we don't have a ton of machines, but I mean, just behind us we have the LulzBot Mini over there, which I think is out of shot. The TAS 4 MakerBot Replicator 2s,
plus the 2X that's not in here.
Yeah, so there's a 2X that's somewhere. The Z18, our 5th gen, and our Replicator Mini are somewhere. We have a Cube 3 and a Cube Pro. So I mean that.
Yeah.
And the thing is, they all use a slightly different interface, like the LulzBot Mini and the TAS.
And a cupcake.
The cupcake.
Well, yeah, and a cupcake. Well, you know, if we get that up
now.
and running, you could probably control it with 3D Printer OS.
I don't know.
I mean, we don't do a lot of custom printing, but as we start to do more, because there's starting to be more of a demand for custom 3D printing, the whole print bureau side of things, it gets to be very hectic managing, okay, which print is going on which machine, what materials loaded up. So I think another one that we'd like to take a look at is BotQueue. I think that's what LulzBot uses for managing all of theirs. And there they have what, probably 100 TAS 4s running in a cluster, and it's all controlled from that one interface, and you're able to take notes and all that stuff. But I think they pay for BotQueue. It's an open source project.
It's made specifically for them.
Well, yeah, they have
one version.
Yeah, they have a lot of stuff. I think they've forked it, and they have a version specific to them. Yeah, I'm sure. And yeah.
Oh,
and so the developer, I think they have him doing some custom development just for them. So like they can add notes on, hey, this printer, the print failed the last time. Because if you were to try and keep track of all of that manually, you wouldn't
really
be able
hard.
to.
Yeah.
I mean, there's only so many post-its that you
think of our
can
4
have.
printers, and we're like, oh, I need to print this on this one. Oh, well, when you're done with that, I need to do this, and then it's kind of like.
And that's just
forget.
And that's just for internal projects. I mean, when you start dealing with client stuff, you need to know, okay, well, whose project is on here? Which customer is it for?
Yeah.
And that's so. Yeah, I mean that's something.
And
that
knowing what settings you're using, so because like the Z18 behind me, I've been testing a couple different settings on there, and you know, if all of a sudden I'm printing something and Eric goes and changes the settings, or John goes and changes the settings, and all of a sudden I didn't save those settings, now I'm kind of SOL on, oh, well, what did I use for settings? I mean, and I'm talking the
going into the Word, like the
profiles,
text editor,
going into the profiles and actually changing
it's
stuff.
It's not something you can see by looking on the interface.
No, and it's not like, oh, I used RAFs instead of this.
Yeah,
it's actually, oh, I used 4 layers of RAFs versus 5 layers at this speed.
And even on a print by print basis, I mean, you could be printing, let's say for example this chess pawn versus this phone dummy case or phone dummy. You're going to be using different print settings for these, or you could. They're going to have different optimum print settings. Like, yeah, you can use the same settings on them, but they're not going to turn out as well as they could. Mm-hmm. So being able to keep track of that stuff is a big deal too. Keeping track of which print profile you're using, and being able to say, like, even if you're doing something like a test log, saying, okay, well, let's try different print settings on just this one piece, and then making notes. Okay, well, this turned out really well, but when I tweaked this, it made this other part of the print worse. Mm-hmm. So just all sorts of stuff. But I don't know. I think that those are the 3 big things that we wanted to hit. I'm sure we did our fair amount of rambling, as we usually do. But that's why you listen to us.
A little bit of an update on the Z18. I ran a 30-hour print. It said it was going to run for 35. But it ended up being 30. So I ran a 30-hour print of a piece of a client that I can't talk about. But I ran a part. It turned out really well. I'll see if we can get some pictures, at least one picture. The vertical side of things. It was doing really well. Mm-hmm. So yeah, we're pretty happy with it thus far.
Progress.
Well, I mean, it was a nice solid print. I mean, for a 30-hour print to not have any smart extruder problems, that's always great to have happen. And I think it was a speed setting that you ended up tweaking.
Yeah,
because I think that was the standard temperature that you were printing at.
No, I bumped it up a little bit, and then I changed the speed in a couple different areas. And I'm going to go back tonight and tweak some more stuff to see if I can get it to go a little bit faster. Because, I mean, 30-hour print, I mean, you cranked out the same height in a Rep 2.
Ended up being, well, for the same height, it ended up being like a 15-hour print.
Yeah.
So there's room,
and I think
there's room
mine
for
was,
speed
mine was even more, mine was taller than your 2 combined, actually. Yeah. So, I mean, I'm going to bump up the speed a little bit, see if that changes. But if there's tips and tricks that you guys have out there for the Z18 or any other printer, let us know, because we'd love to try them and see how they work and kind of keep an open dialogue with that. I mean, that'd be kind of cool. That's sweet.
But I think that does it for us. So on behalf of Jake, myself, and Eric, thanks for tuning in to another episode of the Fargo 3D Printing Show. Again, something that we mentioned before, we're thinking about making Fargo 3D Printing shirts. If you think that's something you'd be interested in, let's say $15 for a Fargo 3D Printing shirt.
I would do it.
15, $20, yeah.
I mean, just let us know, and if there are enough people that want to do it, we can make it happen. So again, thanks for watching.
Thanks.
Bye.
Just ask your whole family, your grandma, your uncle, your aunts. Ask your aunt, be like, hey, you remember Jake? He says that he has some potatoes he's trying to give away.